Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Money and Stuff. Hope you guys are doing well. I'm your host, Sam Rodriguez. With me, as always, Conor Shepard.
Hello.
All right, man. Let's do it. What are we talking about?
Oh, no small talk? No.
No small talk. Let's cut to it.
Let's just get into it. Yeah.
We don't want to lose people right away with stuff they don't care about.
Let's just catch them with the goods. So yeah, today we're talking, really it's coming from an article that I was reading about. I heard about it on a podcast, read into it, but it was talking about how
Don't
Disney
ever mention
World,
another podcast ever again.
I won't give the name.
There's only one podcast you should be listening to. Whether you're a part of this podcast or whether you listen to this podcast, this is the only podcast you should listen to. Anyway, go ahead.
You guys should just have it on repeat. Just playing.
That's right. Forget anything else exists. All right. You read an article.
Read an article, and it was talking about the attendance at Disney World, at their different parks, Epcot, Animal Kingdom, and kind of like the way that they track wait times and stuff. And they had some of the lowest wait times and lowest attendance numbers that they've had in years. I mean, easily.
So,
and
do they actually know the attendance numbers are low, or do they just assume they're low because the wait times were low?
I would have to double check about the attendance numbers, but based on the wait times being as low as they are, I would have to assume that the two correlate.
Maybe they got better. Maybe they did some like Chick-fil-A training and that line is just like zipping now, man.
Yeah, definitely. Corporations are very well known for trying to create more efficient systems for their customers to save money and whatnot.
So for purposes of today's talk, let's assume that less people are going to Disney parks.
I'm looking now. Oh yeah, okay. Foot traffic, Disney parks falling. So the decline in foot traffic, so the decline in attendance is increasing. Falling 23% through June 24.
Wow. Okay. So what did you see? Like, what did they say attributed to that?
Well, they talked about a few different factors. One is probably the one that a lot of people have heard about on the news and whatnot, but some attributed a part of it to, what you might call the woke agenda that you would hear about in the news, but something of a political nature being the cause. The CEO is citing things like the weather, it being notably hot, especially coming into the summer and with, over July 4th weekend and whatnot. Yeah. And then really what I am seeing more and more that people are talking about is the rising cost of the experience, I'll just say, to encapsulate all the costs that go into something like going to Disney World. That concept, that experience that was arguably a part of the American dream for so long has now almost priced out its primary demographic, that being middle income, middle class, families and whatnot.
Yeah. So, I'm sure all of those are a contributing factor. The quote woke agenda. I'm sure there's some people that has kept them away, but man, anytime there's something like that, like whether it's a boycott, whatever it is, what I always wonder is, was that your target demographic anyway?
Yeah.
And then how many people actually care that much, because what alternatives do they have? So you think if someone's going to spend their money at a place like Disney, where else would they go? And so then what I would look at, and this would be interesting for us to do, and I haven't done this because we didn't really talk about this very much beforehand, would be, if it was because of their woke agenda, did those people choose an alternative place to go?
Yes, that would be interesting. And I can say that at least as far as Florida, like that chunk of theme park and experience real estate, so to speak, I do know that Universal Studios Orlando, as well as I think there's another big major, brand park there in that area of Orlando, but they also saw like a decrease in foot traffic.
So then we can sort of cancel out like the idea of people not going to Disney for ideological reasons.
Being such a huge impact.
Right. Because if you were someone who was going to go to Disney, so there may be people who, say, I'm not going to go to Disney because of XYZ. And then those people may say, or Disney may say, that's fine. You never came to Disney anyway. Right. It reminds me when I was in college, I used to work at a theater. Right. And when I first started working at the theater, the movie tickets were $2. And that's not because of my age. It's just, it was a really inexpensive movie theater. And I remember one time this person came in and I can't remember what they were upset about, but they were extremely upset about something that was completely out of our control, really wasn't something they should be upset about. And I remember they said, I'll never come back to this theater. And I remember thinking, in my mind, like, okay, we'll miss your $2 a year, because they never came. So it was like, all right, like,
yeah.
So I think the people who were going to go to Disney, they would have tried to find something else to do because they were going to do that experience. And from what you're saying, if they didn't go to Universal, we didn't see a pickup in other theme parks, then it really wasn't a significant factor because they would have chosen to go somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening on like more of an individualistic basis, where it's like, like you said, ideological stuff, people with a personal reason. But I definitely agree. I think the other two factors make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
As far as
so
explaining it.
I mean, it's been unusually hot in Florida, hasn't it? I mean, I know it's been unusually hot everywhere, but
man, you're gonna just get into weather without giving me a shot?
That's right. I don't care about what it's like where you are. You don't live anywhere where Disney is. You have any Florida weather stats? All right, we'll pause until you have them.
Thank God editing power exists.
That's right.
Okay, July 4th.
Come on, man, Florida weather. Why's it taking so long? I've got the internet.
Think it would be easy. You'd think it would be easy. Oh my Lord, why is this so difficult?
Good God. All right, man.
Oh my gosh.
I find this faster than you.
July 4th, 95 degrees. That does not seem that hot.
That's hot. All right.
I've been in Texas too long. Oh my gosh.
If I get better info than you in this like 30 seconds that I've been looking, I'm seriously going to doubt your research skills. Let's see.
I found AccuWeather, and it's telling me 95, shy of 95.
Yeah, man. So it's on average been a few degrees hotter. That's all I was really looking for, is has it been hotter in Florida this year than it has been in past years?
Yes. I definitely, yeah.
There is a heat dome from the plains to the southeast or east.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
I forgot that I saw that in another news article about the heat dome.
Let's go, man. Let's go, man. What's driving this heat? High pressure has been over the region, which can help temperatures to rise and limit precipitation. In addition, Saharan dust has reached portions of Florida that reduces the chance of showers and thunderstorms, which allows temperatures to be a bit hotter. All right. So the air mass over what can I say? Sunshine. The air mass over the sunshine state. Am I saying it right? Is it just not sounding right in my head?
No,
the air mass over the sunshine. The air mass over the sunshine state is very moist and makes it feel more humid, leading to the excessive heat concerns. So yes, Florida is hotter this year than it's been in a long time. What I would say then, because not everyone lives in Florida, right? Mm-hmm. So we do know, okay, people aren't going to Universal. People aren't going to Disney World. Are they going to other parks where maybe temperatures are not as hot? So have they decided, hey, we're not going to go to Disney World, but we're going to go to Disneyland?
Yeah.
Things like that, right? But I guess Disney is saying all of their parks are seeing a decline, right?
Pretty much, yeah. That was my understanding from the article, is that like en masse they're seeing this decline in foot traffic and wait times, and that's really why I lean heaviest into that last factor or theory, being that and I think you described it earlier much better, but seeing this pricing out point where for so long Disney World, this experience was something that, I mean, honestly, I would argue that even something like weather up to a certain point was something that people would just put up with because the value of that experience resonated so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think about that. You're probably right, man. Yeah. I think the economic aspect, I don't know what's going on. The economic aspect is, I am going to argue that is the biggest factor, because we're not only seeing it at Disney, we're seeing it sort of across the board with consumer spending. So I really do think we're at a point of resistance, right? So, you and I had actually talked about this in an earlier episode. I think that the title of the episode was like, is corporate greed driving inflation?
Mm-hmm.
And yes, there were other factors, right? There was food and energy, housing. Those three things were really pushing inflation up. Food and energy have dropped a lot since then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we have seen, and now we can look at the data and actually show that, yes, corporate profits were a major piece of the inflationary pressures that we've seen. So in 2021, for example, for the entire year, we had seen about a 7% rise in inflation during that period of time. Corporate profits, or a rise in corporate profits, accounted for 60% of that, right? And so 60% of 7% is 4.2%, right? So inflation would have been much lower had that not happened. But what I will say, or some people might argue, is that we were in a recovery, right? We had sort of the shutdown, the economic shutdown in 2020. 2021 was very much a recovery year. And that's actually not unusual. After recessions, the next year, the recovery year, corporate profits usually are a major piece of inflation. What is unusual is the second year. In the second year, corporate profits on average are almost no piece of the inflationary pressure, right? So yes, corporations are still making a profit, but the rise in profits is not big or a major portion. That has been different. So in 2022, where instead of being sort of a negligible amount, it was about 20% of 2022's rise in inflation. So I think corporate profits has been a big piece to that. And I think corporations were able to do that because in 2020, several things happened, right? Number one is you couldn't go anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
Anywhere where you would spend your discretionary money, there wasn't a place to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you bought something big, interest rates were so low that your payment was really low. So you still had all this extra cash. And some people, a lot of households, basically got free money, right? There was an influx of cash from the government. And then when 2021 hit, people had money to burn, people had money to spend. And we saw in 2021, and it continued into 2022, people spent that money and people had a lot of credit available to them. So in 2021, 2022, we didn't see a slowdown in spending. We just saw corporations making higher and higher profits. And even though their costs started to go down, they continued to raise prices.
Yeah.
Right. So we had a situation where they kept raising prices. We kept purchasing and everything and going places, especially things like theme parks, because we had been cooped up for so long that people were like, yeah, get me out of here. I got to go do something. So we were willing to spend that money. Everybody kept raising their prices as long as we continue to spend it. What's really interesting is what some of these corporations have realized is like they're doing the math of like, how high can we raise prices?
Yeah.
And even if we lose customers, that we still end up making more profit, right?
Yes.
So like Colgate Palmolive, for example, their sales volume dropped by 2% because they were raising their prices. But even though their sales volume dropped by 2%, their profit increased by 6%.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, yeah, let's raise prices. Yeah, we're losing customers, but we're not losing that many. Right. And that's what we've seen over the last 2 years is, yeah, okay, well, we're going to raise them. Okay, people are still showing up. Raise them again. People are still showing up. Raise them. People are still showing up. And I think everybody felt okay because they had this extra money or this extra credit that they were able to use.
Yeah, I think it really was a perfect storm of events and the series of events that led to the situation in terms of having something like the pandemic where everybody's cooped up, everybody's boxed in, like forget Disney World, any sort of like vacation or trip experience is lockdown, period.
Yeah.
You come out of that, you have corporations that are, especially places like theme parks, that are desperately wanting to make up as much of that money that they were just completely frozen out of for the past 2 years, year and a half, however long. And I think what you just described is exactly right with doing the math, looking at, okay, if we increase these prices, not just for tickets, but everything, we try to turn this into more luxury experience, make, everything is more expensive. I mean, I think I was in the article I was reading, even in the self-parking areas at Disney World, it's like $75 a day.
Holy
Just,
cow.
and that's like at a mile away parking lot type thing. And
oh my gosh.
everything is just going up. And I think what you just said is exactly it. It's this pricing out of, hey, we might lose some customers on the bottom end, but we're making more to make up for the customer base that we lost, and who we're still like pulling in, the people still attending. Clearly they're okay spending that kind of
They're
money
willing to
on
pay,
this.
right?
And
Yeah.
so
I think for the last 2 years, almost everybody was able to get away with that, right?
Yeah.
And I think moving forward, there's going to be some companies who can continue to do that because they really are a luxury experience. And what you see during tough economic times, no matter what's causing the tough economic time, is the higher end of the net worth spectrum. They're always going to spend money.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can place yourself in that luxury space, then you can create sort of an insulated business model, right?
Yeah.
But I think trying to falsely put yourself in that space isn't going to work for very long, right?
Yeah.
Because you could kind of falsely put yourself there with price, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a luxury product or experience, right?
Yeah.
Like you really need to be delivering something that puts you in that category.
Yeah.
Right. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to sustain that business model. And man, like, I don't know. I think like Disney parks, theme parks, I mean, that's middle America, right? Like that's your middle class.
Yeah.
That's your bread and butter right there, is get people to show up.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I think especially Disney World, like we really couldn't use a more symbolic example, because I think Disney World truly is that symbol for middle class America, the American dream. I mean, I can remember growing up, like that was one of those things that you saw commercials, you saw Disney movies. It was like, as a kid, you wanted to go to Disney World more than anything. And I think it's reaching that crossover point, or that point of resistance rather, where unfortunately, like you're seeing less and less people able to provide that sort of experience for their family.
So there's a lot, right? So even before this, what we're currently seeing, so from 2009, up until probably about 2019, going into 2020, inflation was really, really low, like way below that 2% target that we have, right? But our incomes were continuing to go up. And so, we've seen over the last 15, 20 years, people talk about it all the time about how when they were growing up, there wasn't a television in every room. Not everybody in the household had a car, all of these things, right? And when I think I've talked about it before, that I like watching old movies when they have, like a storefront with all the televisions in the window, and you look at the prices and they're not much different than they are today. And this could have been 30, 40 years ago, right? So there's certain things that have become really, really cheap, and we've gotten used to. I mean, I don't want to call it a luxurious lifestyle, but the fact that so many people can have all of these things and carry around $1,000 phones, everybody in the household, right? Even the idea of access to instant information via the internet, via high-speed internet, like all of these luxury things we've become very accustomed to. And, in the last, or I'd say from like 2014 on, I started seeing like real luxury brands advertised a lot more, right? Where I don't remember seeing those brands advertised in the past. But I think because interest rates had been low, they knew, hey, we can sort of dip into, from like upper class income into sort of middle to upper income, and they can maybe have to stretch, but afford it because they can finance it so cheap. Right.
Yes.
And
because it's coming from that step down, because it's coming from this like lofty position of like luxury, they are far more willing to spend that kind of money, because for somebody in a lower income level, Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it's self-explanatory,
right.
but
So you've got luxury brands coming down, not bringing their product down, but realizing, hey, we can sell to these people,
yeah,
right? And
there's
then
a
you've got
segment of the market down there that we can scoop
yeah,
up.
and then you've got non-luxury brands that are like, hey, we can keep raising our price and maybe try to position ourselves as a luxury brand, right? But we're hitting a point now. Well, interest rates are higher, so can middle America really afford those luxury brands? And if you positioned yourself in that price range and you're not a real luxury brand, are you going to be able to hold up? And I think we're
Yeah.
seeing it with Disney, right? And you look at it though. I mean, you look at the savings rate, you look at the average rate in savings accounts, you look at consumer spending. I mean, in 2021, we hit a high because people had all that money, right? That we just
Yeah.
talked about, whether it was money they saved, money they received from the government, whatever, they received some money. And it has just continued to go down. And it really is, you're really starting to see now kind of a very rapid decline in discretionary spending. And some of that is the money's running out, but then also, you're having to make choices, right? Like the cost of housing is going up. So if you're renting, your rent's gone up, probably 50% in the last 2 or 3 years. Your groceries have gone up. The cost to fill up your gas tank has gone up. And for a little while, you were able to absorb all of that and
Yeah.
still spend money on the things you like to do. But now that that extra money is running out on a month to month basis, I think a lot of people are like living right at that edge, right?
Yeah.
What's coming in is what they have to spend to survive on a month to month basis. So yeah, I think we're at that point. I think we're at that point, that resistance point.
Yeah.
Where I don't think these companies are going to be able to continue to raise prices, because I think now, instead of people just continuing to spend that money, they're going to make choices as to what they start dropping. Right?
Yeah. I think you're right. And it is funny for me to try to imagine, like, if Disney World just went full tilt, like we're going full luxury brand, just like, what would that look like? Like what does a millionaire's Disneyland look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
know.
I'm just thinking, like, how much can they like? Obviously, you can, like you said, you can raise prices and call it luxurious, but what can they really do materially to actually appeal?
Make it
I
that
guess.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your dining and your hotel experiences. Yeah, I get, but it's just, I think I've never been to Disney World, so
Oh
I don't
man.
know. I've never had a desire to. Even as a kid, I was never like, yeah, I want to go to Disney World. Like, I don't know, like, what was there? Why would I want to go there? Anyway.
Oh, I'm a victim of the commercial giant back in the 2000s.
Yeah,
They sucked
there was
me in
just
with those
nothing.
commercials of kids
There
wanting to
was
like
nothing
go.
I ever saw in those commercials that made me think, yeah, that's a place that I want to be. Yeah, I can't think of anything that I saw that was
Do you like
appealing
roller
to me about it.
coasters? Okay, I can understand then. I can understand then, because like I was one of those kids. Roller coasters? Holy cow! Get me on there.
Roller coasters plus Mickey Mouse? Yes, let's go. No,
Sugar?
I mean, and I was probably an overly practical kid as well. So even if I did like roller coasters, I probably would have said, aren't there roller coasters at Six Flags like an hour away?
You're
Like, why do we
you're
got to go to Disney
35
World?
and an 8-year-old's body. Like
Yeah,
I could put this money away and it can
I
grow
just,
compounding over the next 8
I just
years.
can't justify this expense. Yeah. Anyway, um, so what were we talking? Oh, so the point I was getting to earlier, didn't Disney in the past have like, yes, this is the cost for the ticket, but then they had like different levels of like how nice where you stayed inside the park was, like in terms of like your hotel experience and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to re-listen to it, but I think the podcast that I listened to was talking about how, like, tickets just to go in, one ticket to go in, forget about staying there, forget about any of that. One ticket to go in is like $250 a day. And
Oh my gosh. No
yes,
way, man. Like you think about the average household income is, I can't remember what it is, but somewhere between $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Dude, family of four, $1,000 a day. When you're maybe bringing in $5,000 a month, you're going to
yeah,
spend 20% of your paycheck that you're needing to pay your bills and just provide for your family. No,
yeah,
not even including the cost to get there or to stay the night or eating
yeah.
anything. Holy cow.
And it's like, it's those accruing costs that it's like, even in the past, like, you had everything adding up, but I mean, tickets used to be $2. And I'm not talking about in, like, I don't know when Disney World opened, but
What? Tickets
Not
used
way,
to
way
be
back.
$2 to Disney World.
Yeah.
We gotta look this up.
I might be talking out of my bum.
I think you've got to be. Ticket prices. Let's see, historical ticket prices. All right, so this is from 2020, but it gives prices from before that. 1971 tickets were $350. Hold on,
Okay.
you said they're $250 now?
It looks like they are 200. Oh wait,
200 in 2020, 3 years ago, they were 109. That
Yeah.
is crazy. So it's not even that they've gone from 350 to 200. It's what they've jumped in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So from 87 to 96, it says single day passes were somewhere between $28 to $40.
Okay.
Dude, let's figure out that inflation.
That is actually crazy. That is actually insane.
To 200. Oh, wait. 40, 200. How many years has that been? Oh man, I don't want to think about how many years it's been. Yeah, don't do the math. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out.
27.
So that's over a 6% annual rise, right? That's way above what inflation has been during that period of time. So in 2011, they were $63 to $85 still.
Wow.
Right? So
Wow.
yeah. So 17, 18, between 107 to 129. Yeah, so 2019, like 109 to 120 to 159, right? So yeah, so let's say 109 to 200, like almost doubled in 3 years. Come on.
Per day.
Come on,
And
man.
you think about like we talked about earlier, coming out of the pandemic, assuming, they're desperately trying to make up as much profit as they miss out on. In theory, you just jack up the ticket prices on something that you already know the demand is like out the door for. I mean, you're going to make that up lightning speed. You're going to make that up in an instant.
Yeah. So, but I do think like this was a good article to bring up because it is a reflection of everything else right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything shot up in price way more than it needed to. I know in 2021, a lot of the increase that corporations enacted in their price was in anticipation of their costs going up in 2022. And it did happen. Their costs did go up in 2022, but they really overshot it. They really overshot how much they increased their prices. Even once that was realized, they still continued to increase their prices. Why? Because they could, because we kept buying.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So yeah, Disney, perfect reflection of what's happening right now. And I think we're going to see more and more of that, of people making these decisions that they're just not going to spend the money on these things. So, I do think that inflation, from an economic perspective, us as advisors, we see it and it's an indicator of what we see about to happen and helps us make some of the decisions that we need to make in portfolios. I do think that inflation is going to fall much faster than people are expecting it to. Right.
Yeah.
And I think it has to, it doesn't, when I say I think it has to, I'm not saying that because of like, hey, our economy has to see inflation fall. No,
like
I think
a
it just
law
has
of something.
to. Yeah. Because we are at that inflection point.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not saying that prices are going to come down. Maybe they will. Right. But I think they're going to stabilize.
Yeah.
Right. And then hopefully what we see is wages rise enough that we sort of get back to this level of even. All right. So,
yeah,
man, that's a good article. I didn't think we'd have that much to talk about with it, but yeah, I think it was really good. It's just like I said, just a reflection of what's going on with everything that we're having to purchase now, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Very, very symbolic.
Else? Yeah. All right, guys, we appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, man, let us know. If we could talk about this, I'm assuming we can talk about anything.
Ask
send
me.
it our way.
Send it our way.
All right. Till next time. Thanks, guys.